Right, well, Mr. Mayor, we know that Mitch McConnell is now saying that by Friday, he may have this back before the CBO with just a few tweaks and changes. What are your concerns when you look at what they're doing with health care on Capitol Hill? Why should the mayor of Columbus care about this?
Well, I care because it directly impacts the people of Columbus, the folks that I work for. You know, over 97,237 to be exact, of our neighbors have health care today that didn't 8 years ago. And having Medicaid expansion in place has really been a lifeline to those facing challenges with poverty, with lack of insurance, the addicted and the afflicted. You know, there are 200,000 Buckeyes across the state that are getting drug treatment right now because of Medicaid expansion. So when you take a look at all of our initiatives, whether it's the Celebrate One initiative, fighting infant mortality, we have tens of thousands of women that are pregnant or have just given birth that have the health insurance today because of Medicaid expansion. So I just ask, I want to thank both of our senators, Brown and Portman, because they have stood together against what has been proposed, the negative impact it will have on the people of Columbus and folks throughout the state, and really want this to be a bipartisan effort. I mean, it's not every day that Sherrod Brown, John Kasich, Rob Portman, and Andy Ginther all believe that Medicaid expansion is absolutely essential, that we continue to offer mental health parity, and that we make sure that folks aren't turned away for health care because of pre-existing conditions.
There are indications that if Mitch McConnell had lined up enough votes, that Rob Portman would have voted for this bill. He was one of the people on that committee working for it. Are you sure he will vote against it, or do you believe he might change his mind?
Well, I can't speak for Rob Portman, but I can say that he is in the same position and took the same position on what was being considered as Governor John Kasich, Sherrod Brown, myself, and Republicans and Democrats across the country. I mean, we have Republican mayors and Democratic mayors and governors of both parties all saying, you know, any approach, any reforms and changes that take place with our health care system, we want to make sure that Medicaid expansion remains in place for the most vulnerable in our community, that if we're going to effectively go after the opiate crisis in this state and in this community, we had a 66% increase in overdose deaths from last year to this year. This is ground zero for this battle. And Medicaid expansion is critical to the strategy we just unveiled last week, an effort with the city, the county, Adam H., Public Health, all of our partners here locally. How are we going to tackle this issue if health insurance and treatment goes away for hundreds of thousands of Ohioans? I mean, this is something that is absolutely essential for us to fight for.
So what do you say to those senators who are pushing for the reform of Medicaid and taking away the Medicaid expansion? And what do you say to Rob Portman if he's pressured to vote for the changes that would strip Medicaid away and make this the way the Republican leadership envisions it?
Well, this for me is not about Republicans or Democrats. It's not about Obamacare or Trump care. It's really about Buckeye values, you know, protecting Medicaid expansion, making sure that those that are afflicted and addicted, our neighbors, have that support that they need, that they have access to high quality health care, that pregnant women, to make sure that they have better birth outcomes and that their children enter this world ready to thrive. I would tell those folks to go home to their communities and sit down and talk with families that are facing drug addiction, that are facing the challenges with accessing affordable health care, those that might have family members with pre-existing conditions. Focus on people and focus on Buckeye values, making sure that this is bipartisan and that we protect the most vulnerable in our state. That's what Governor Kasich is saying, that's what Senator Brown, and based on Senator Portman's statement and position yesterday, we're all in agreement, and we need to make sure that those are our priorities moving forward before we consider any changes to health care.
You know, those people who are looking at Obamacare, though, are saying, right here in Ohio, we've had Anthem pull out of county after county. They're saying it's not sustainable, and that the system itself will collapse on itself because we're not going to have providers who are willing to be in the system, in the exchange. So what's the solution to that?
You know, again, be driven and focused on Buckeye values. Bipartisan, protect Medicaid expansion, make sure that those with pre-existing conditions are covered, and have parity for both women and mental health to make sure that we continue to treat those that are afflicted and addicted in our community. That is the way forward. I don't think anybody has ever said that the Affordable Care Act was perfect. And I think Democrats and Republicans can come together to figure out a way forward, as long as we protect and focus on those priorities. Medicaid expansion, making sure that pre-existing conditions are covered, and making sure that women and those that are challenged with substance abuse and mental health challenges that the governor talks about all the time, those have to be our priorities. We can figure this out together, but we've got to make sure that people are our priority.
You know, I also wanted to ask you about the whole sanctuary city controversy, and I know you've resisted using that label, and yet Columbus has taken a stance that essentially makes it a sanctuary city. Are you getting pushback from the White House on your plans, and do you fear the city's going to lose federal funding because of its position on these immigration issues?
You know, all we did was simply take what has been a long-standing policy of the Division of Police, and actually based on best practices for Metro Chiefs across the country, and put that into an executive order. Ultimately, Columbus City Council codified that executive order, and it simply is us continuing to do what we always have done, and that is not apprehend or detain anyone simply because of their immigration status. It doesn't matter who it is and what their status is. If they commit crimes in the city of Columbus, they're going to be held accountable, and they will be brought to justice. This simply clarifies what has been our longstanding policy, that we aren't going to use immigration status as a way to target people in this community. We need to make sure that if we're going to continue to grow and thrive, driving Ohio's recovery and now the 14th largest city in the country, we need to make sure that we're being smart and open in a place that's safe and welcoming to people from all across Ohio, America, and the world.
This is a city known for its diversity, and it certainly has a very proud and loud gay community, as we saw in the Pride Parade.
Sure.
There was this conflict, though, with a small group that tried to stop the Pride Parade to protest the death of a young black man at the hands of a police officer in another city. And we know what happened as a result of that. There was a confrontation with police, and it's caused internal problems within Stonewall. Have you been in touch with Stonewall, or are you looking at how that investigation, that internal investigation, is going into the way that incident was handled?
Well, I want to make sure that, that investigation, concludes, and that all the evidence and information is brought forth, recommendations that might come about from that investigation. I will tell you that the Columbus Division of Police, this is now the largest Pride Parade in the entire Midwest. I think we surpassed Chicago this past year. So it is a huge parade, upwards towards 500,000 people. And it is absolutely essential, with everything going on in the world today, that our first responders are able to keep people safe. And so anytime folks are interrupting, trying to disrupt or stop an event to go out in front of an event with 500,000 people, we need to make sure that our officers are doing everything they can to keep everyone safe. And obviously we'll review our policies and procedures as a department, wait for the investigation from Stonewall if they're conducting a review, and see if there's anything we can improve upon. But our officers have an incredible amount of duty and obligation to keep people. There are people that come from all over the country to Pride Parade weekend. It's one of the great weekends we celebrate our diversity as a community, and their top priority is always making sure that we're safe.
We have a big event coming up on Monday, Red, White, and Boom.
We do.
And I know security for us,
Sure,
and for your office, for your Division of Police, it's always a concern. As you go into this big, massive event with upwards of 400,000 people in downtown Columbus, what are your personal concerns? What do you fear might go on at an event like that?
Well, we're blessed with the best police chief in all of America and the best division of police in the country. And so relying on their expertise, their experience, but also interactions with state and federal authorities about trends that they've seen, things that they've seen in other places, some changes in approach and strategic locations of different investments we've made in resources, both in people and in vehicles and other apparatus, just trying to do as much as we can to plan ahead and anticipate where the greatest vulnerabilities might be for an event like this. This is one of the greatest events, I think, really in the Midwest, and an exciting time where people literally come from all over the state to be part of one of the greatest fireworks displays, an entire day celebration of American independence right here in America's Opportunity City in Columbus. And so we're excited, and I know that once again we will have an amazing event with a fantastic display and great partners out in the community that everybody can celebrate with family and friends around.
We've been pretty lucky with an event this size for this many years, don't you think?
Absolutely, and we're going to continue on with that. We always want to make sure that we learn as much as possible from past years and events that are taking place around other parts of the country and the world. And I know we've gone into planning for this year, both Division of Police and Fire, working together with Homeland Security and others in state government to make sure it's safe and fun for families. We
are, as you say, America's Opportunity City, and we're the smart city, and we've got that grant coming. Where does that stand? When are we going to see the actual, well, I know there's been a lot of planning.
Sure.
When are we going to see evidence that we're smart?
I think you're going to really start seeing that with, the integrated data exchange that is being put together now. That's really going to be the backbone of that. You're going to see changes already being made to some of the buses that are going around, particularly the rapid transit lines on Cleveland Avenue. As you know, Linden is one of our pilots for that effort. So the kiosks that will be going to be put in place in Linden so that we'll have transit cards to really tackle that first mile and last mile challenge that a lot of our residents face there. Just in Linden, you're only one neighborhood away from one of the biggest job centers in Central Ohio at Easton. With 26,000 jobs that aren't retail-based. I think everybody thinks of Easton Town Center and thinks of Easton Mall, but you don't think about MI Homes and Huntington and Alliance Data Systems and all the other major employers that are in and around Easton. We want to open up those opportunities to the residents of Linden, Northeast Columbus, and really throughout. And that's what Smart Columbus is all about. Public-private partnerships that are helping to open up opportunities for the people of Columbus. So I think, a lot of planning and engaging. I mean, we're excited with the $40 million award from DOT, $10 million from Vulcan. It's now $500 million from public and private investment, and we've set a goal for $1 billion by 2020. So it's going to be a transformational effort, and I really believe that mobility is the great equalizer of the 21st century. If you can access jobs, education, and opportunities, affordable, high-quality childcare, even overcoming food deserts that are in some central city neighborhoods because of mobility, think about the power that holds for the residents and neighborhoods throughout our great city.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Colin.
That was great. I took it on a little bit longer because we put the whole interview online, let everybody see it. But of course, this is going to be focusing on healthcare.
Cool.
I don't know if she told you, we're running it probably tomorrow. It's the first day of the book, and we want to kind of do a feature with you talking about this. And hopefully she's going to get me somebody from one of the health systems
sure.
to add to it as well. So
yeah.
I appreciate you doing this.
So you're hearing Rob might flip?
What's that?
You're hearing Rob might flip? Portman?
Yeah. I think he would have. I think you notice he didn't take that stance.
Until after it was postponed.
Until after it was clear that they didn't have the votes. Because he was on that committee.
But why come out against it?
Because it's safe to do it now.
But then turn around and vote for it? I mean, isn't that quintessential U.S. Senate for it before you were against it?
He's not going to go against Mitch McConnell. Do you think?